body. It was pretty funny. But
That doesn't sound good.
no, and he was just bored the whole time because the time it takes to go from the post office to the airplane, it's not like boarding a regular
7 hours.
passenger jet.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he had to sit overnight in a sorting facility somewhere.
I would rather just work hard and pay for first class. That's
Yeah.
just my opinion. But what do I know?
I think he did it just to get views, and
Oh, is
it
that it?
worked. I watched
like
it.
it.
I watched the whole thing, which I kind of looking back on it, I'm a little bit ashamed of myself, but it was.
Don't tell me you've got a $50 patron.
Patreon.
Patreon.
To the guy, yeah. I do. I am a patron of some things, but yeah, not him, unfortunately.
I like it.
Some of his other video content just didn't strike me as.
We need some KCAA Patreon dollars coming in. What do you
do.
say? We gotta work this out somehow.
You know what? I am going to start a Patreon here pretty soon.
I like it.
Yeah, me and Steven, we're gonna have a Patreon.
Oh, yeah?
Pretty soon. Yeah, but we have to. There's a lot of stuff we have to put together ahead of time. A lot of the backlog of things we want to do because we want to, as investors, we want to walk through our properties and show people what a walkthrough looks like.
I think he pitched me on that for $40,000 a month. I got to drive around in my cars or my houses in limousines or something like that.
Sure.
I don't know what it was.
If you give us that much, we'll get you to all your property. Yeah, we'll hire you a personal driver. We'll do all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I don't know how anybody could live on just $40,000 a month. I mean,
That's exactly what I was thinking. How do you do that?
How do you do that? You must be on a tight budget. But so I guess we're going to talk about some real estate. What we have been doing in the past is talking about ways to, basically we're trying to follow this pattern of, in the beginning we were talking about in January how to set your goals, and then in February we're talking about business planning. In March we talked about something else, and I don't know, I've kind of checked out on this whole concept, and so has our audience. Apparently, I've gotten some.
They don't care for our.
Yeah, they don't care for it. They said, we just want to hear the lifestyles.
They don't want to hear the facts. They don't want to hear how it actually happens.
No, they want to hear the lifestyles of the well-off and anonymous flippers.
Well, I'm hardly well off, but definitely anonymous.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think it's interesting though, because I'm a big fan of if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
And I for many years I sort of beat my head against the concrete trying to get something going. I know you've had a lot more success early on than I know that I did, for sure. But,
sure. You want to call that success? Okay.
Yeah. Well. Now all of a sudden, though, I know you guys find yourself in the same boat as myself. Now it's like, no, I see this. This actually works really well. This is a model we can do. I mean, we can do it outside of the Inland Empire. We can do it all over California. We can do it all over the neighboring states, and frankly, we can do it all over the country. And
yeah,
that's a big thing that I've never had a business like that I personally could operate, and it creates a crazy lifestyle.
It does.
Creates a lot of problems. I mean, as we speak, my wife and daughter are with the escrow company. They're going to they're in a black car going to downtown LA.
Very nice.
Yeah, it is. It's a good thing for them. They're going to the ballet tonight. Donna over at Emerald, and Terry and Hannah, and Donna's daughter Anna. And it's neat. It's neat to see, and it's good for all of us. It gets us it makes us bigger. It makes us think more. It makes us have to plan at a higher level. And don't get me wrong. Sometimes it all comes crashing down on us, but
yeah,
it's fun.
Absolutely.
It's fun.
But that's the byproduct, I guess, of this business, is that you have the freedom and luxury to be able to do those things. I mean, for most people, this would be a work night, and you can't go out to some ballet and then in LA tonight because you got to be up and ready for work tomorrow morning. But tomorrow morning, I imagine they're going to sleep in maybe a little bit. Are they staying out there? Are they going to come back?
No, they got the cars waiting for them, and the car's going to bring them back, and they're going to enjoy themselves and have a great time. But it was a really kind of an interesting thing because, of course, we're over 50. I have no idea how to use my cell phone. So my 17-year-old Emma was booking the car, and she just flat out looked at me and goes, "That's ridiculously expensive."
Yeah, what was it, about $250 or something?
It was about 150 more than that.
Really?
For the whole thing.
Okay.
But She go, but I said, hey, that now they can have a champagne, they can drink, they can relax. It's not them worrying about what's freeway to get off of.
Yeah.
And actually, it was really funny because I saw her kind of get it. Like, you know, she knows the show my wife and I put on when we're late to grandma's house or something, you know, over, you know, we'll make the wrong turn or whatever. And it's nice to kind of have that pressure off. It was nice to see the 17-year-old kind of get it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it costs, you know, $396 for the car, but, you know,
Sure.
they're going to use it in another in another place.
Yeah, which is nice. I mean, I know, you know, there's been some times where I've kind of, you know, looked at the Uber model, for example, you know, and it's something in California we don't think about a whole lot because people in New York, there's people in New York that go their whole lives without having a driver license. They just don't own a car. You know, and to me that's such a weird thing because you know you practically have to own a car in California.
What's the name of the comedian that has that funny routine about the black car? Oh, I just heard him. I just heard it. Oh, gosh darn it. It'll come to me.
Same here.
Inside the hour.
I know. Hopefully, there's somebody in a car right now yelling at us.
Exactly.
Like,
I love it. No, but it's I like the topic you're talking about because I know for me personally it's not easy. It's not easy being like I was very much a working class guy. I had a little bit of success, and now all of a sudden we start doing a little bit better, and where we spend our time, what we spend our money on, how we spend our money.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's to be honest with you, it's sometimes it can be kind of foreign. Or you look in your account and maybe one day you've done very well, and 3 days later all that money's gone and it's in something else, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. For me, it's almost like it's like pinch me. You know, is this real? Is this really happening? Sure. You know, when it's really good and when it's really bad, it seems to hurt quite a bit. But
this is just the beginning too. You know?
It is. It feels good though.
It's very different for a lot of people. I think, you know, when they get into it, they're just sort of, you know, and you don't know what to do. You kind of fall back into your usual things, but then, you know, you need somebody to kind of tell you, like, okay, now's your time to start taking advantage of some of these premium services that exist out there. You know, things as simple as like getting your lawn mowed, you know, hiring a gardener, getting your laundry done, you know, having somebody do meal prep for you, or even hiring a personal chef, hiring, you know, I don't know, maid service. There's so many different things you can start doing, and even hiring a driver. Where, you know, when you're busy and when you're constantly on your phone, it's dangerous to be driving, looking at your phone all the time. So if you have a driver, you can actually sit in the back and get some stuff done.
When I'm driving, I got to turn the phone off because if I don't turn it off, it just rings and rings, or you know, I get a bunch of different messages, and then sure enough, I'll have to answer one of them, and then that one turns into 5 others, and the wife. You know, and it makes sense to me. You know, she gets upset because I'm not with her. You know, I just got off work and I'm still working.
You're still working, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and I enjoy it, and it's good to turn off sometimes. But the lifestyle that you're talking about, it's sort of like, you know, be careful what you wish for. And I wouldn't say be careful. I would say plan. I would say you got to you got to understand the word balance actually means something. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to be able to turn it off. You have to be able to. You know,
for me, that's always been like I had to have another office. I can't work from home. If I try working from home, all my creature comforts are there, and I never turn off work. You know, work's always there, so I can't do it. I always have to have a place that I go where I'm kind of getting ready mentally, I guess, on the way to the office, and then once I'm done with the day, I can kind of wind down from that and start getting into home mode where I can leave that behind me. And yeah, that's kind of been my tactic, at least for the last, I don't know, 8 years.
I'm really hoping my partner's listening because I pitched him yesterday on just that. I mean, I can't work out of my house anymore. It's just not.
Yeah.
You know, it's just too much. There's just too much going on, and it never stops, and I'm very loud, and and they shouldn't have to deal with it. If my granddaughter, who Hazel's with us today, she said she wouldn't talk on the microphone, but if my wife is lucky enough to have Hazel for the day, you know, she doesn't want to hear me talking about, you know, interest rates or why this person didn't do this or that or the other thing. So
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I mean that's rough, and I never would have thought that I needed an office, but then I went and looked at offices, and I don't think it's outrageous to think that it could cost like be somewhere between $90 and $150,000 a year to
Wow.
have an office.
Well,
So I'm not talking about just the office, but then you got to have a phone system, and you got to have a computer system, and then you've got all the utilities, and then you've got at least a staff of at least one. I mean,
Sure.
I know you guys have more than one person working in your office.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, you have to really take a hard look at it, because there's been years in my life I didn't make $150,000 doing anything, and now all of a sudden maybe you start to make it. You start to realize that there's a lot of other things out there that are needed to make the business viable.
Yeah, and I think I talked to Bruce Norris about this a little while back, where in the beginning stages you kind of look at it as how many deals does it take to be able to do that. So if you make, let's just say, 30 grand on a deal, how many deals do I need to do to cover that $120,000?
So if you got to do 4 or 5 deals a year, okay.
So as long as having an office is going to produce 4 or 5 more deals for you, then it should net you out to the same. You should net the same profit that you're currently generating, but you have other people.
I'm thinking Jill just like keep me and my wife and I, on the same page with one another. I would say that's probably one of the biggest challenges I have, and I can imagine there's a lot of people out there that maybe do 1 or 2 or 3 deals, and I've often told people when they're getting ready to do the deals, I say, do yourself a favor. Once you've made the decision you're going to do it, you don't listen to anybody.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. You got to have a sense of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And I think that's probably the hardest part now is the things hit me and I don't really know what to do, and I call you. And frankly, it's not that I don't get the right advice from you, but you got your own problems. You don't have time to listen to the 2-hour backstory of what my specific problem is. I called one of the guys that's going to play in the poker game one time.
Okay.
I called him probably 3 months ago, 4 months ago, and this is actually this is a real good story. I can't use anyone's names, but he's a guy I really admire. I've met him several times with you guys. I know he's spoken at your club meeting a couple times, and he's a real anchor. Okay. And he's just that kind of guy.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, there you go. I figured you would. And I called him, and I was like, and I basically like I'm that schmuck that went, hey, I'm looking for a mentor,
Yeah.
And I think that I kind of threw him off a little bit, because he was like, well, wait a minute, you know what you're doing, like you don't need my help figuring out how to buy houses. And I didn't need his help trying to figure
that's
out
not
how to
what
buy
you
houses.
need. No.
Exactly.
It's how do you make it all work?
Yeah. Well, no. How do I turn a good business into a great business? How do I grow it to where I actually own a business, not a job?
Right.
And that to me was it was hard for me to kind of ask for the help, but then once I didn't get back what I was looking for, and I don't think it's because he doesn't know. It's just that's not his job. That's not what he does. The 3 times I did actually speak to him, he was on a job site with other people standing around him, just like I am all day long.
Right.
Some guy calls me and wants that information from me right now. Well, I'm on the radio. Sorry, I haven't been available for the last hour and a half. You know what I'm saying? So I get that, and I think that's a really hard thing for a lot of I know the folks that I've seen them. They pulling on you. I've seen them. I know when I go to the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club meeting on the last
fourth Wednesday of the month.
4th Wednesday of every month.
We had a confusion about that last month.
I did. I heard about that. When I'm there and then people are pulling on me, asking me, hey, what should I do? How should I do this? It's hard to get that answer out. And so having I ended up hiring a coach. I ended up it's probably to date, I think one of the best things I've done. Probably more money than I've spent on anything, on any one thing.
Sure. But the idea is that the cost you're going to have on
a
performance coach is going to increase your business exponentially.
It's been a big win for me. It's been a real big win for me. And we're, it's taken us a few months to kind of get our feet underneath us and figure out who we are, why we do what we do. How we're different, what differentiates us from, all of the other people out there that are trying to do the same thing. But that time that we've spent doing this has given my wife and I the time to really kind of go like, oh yeah, well I'm doing this because, or I'm doing this because of this. Because remember where this was what was important to us. So we have to do this type of activity to get that.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing, that clarity, the
Sure.
Anyway,
So many people will tell you the first thing you need to figure out is the why, right? Like why are you doing this? And it's an important role.
But for 20 years of my life, I looked in the mirror. Why am I doing this? And I didn't really have an answer. And it was nice. I worked with my, the coach, and I've got a great wife that stood by me in some of the worst times of my life.
Yeah.
And
As do I.
As do you?
Yeah, I have a great wife too. I just wanted to throw that in there in case.
Megan is a beautiful woman.
She really is.
Yeah.
Smoking hot.
Smoking hot.
Smoking
You're
hot.
a lucky guy.
I am. I am lucky.
Yeah.
Well, she's a lucky girl though too.
Oh, come on now. Both of us. I know you work really hard. I know I work really hard, and these women that put up with us, these women that deal with us. Even if we do, crazy things like make the wrong deposits in the bank account, or
sure.
all the stupid things that
happen.
I do, I constantly do it. It's important that we recognize that we have to be on the same page, and I think that's probably one thing that I really admire when I see a couple that has been together for a long time, that has been working well together, that they're able to kind of check it. And I know my wife and I do it through our church. We're able to kind of come back to zero and forgive each other for all the stuff we've done to one another.
The transgressions, right?
Bingo. I mean, I know it's a little cliche, but it's a good thing for us because otherwise I'm sort of like, I'm like egomaniacal. I'm like, I'm just, cause I don't want to say a jerk, but I'm super selfish, and I think like a lot of people are.
Yeah.
But having that to fall back on is really important, and this to me is a bigger part of what we're talking about: the real estate, and how to buy houses cheap, and how to fix them, and I mean maybe that's the sexy part that everyone wants to that everyone thinks is important.
Yeah, but there's a day-to-day aspect, because this is slow money. It's not like you make money overnight doing this. Even a flip, if you do it quickly, you're still talking 3 weeks of rehab, and that's a fast one. You can rehab the place in 3 weeks. You still
Who's
got
that contractor you're working with, man? That's for 3 weeks.
That
of
3 week
rehab.
contractor.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just we did. We hired a guy up in was it Adelanto, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we hired a guy up there. He told us 3 weeks, and I said,
really?
I said, and he gave me two prices. One of them was the 3 week price. One of them was the if we take longer than 3 week price.
Oh, nice.
And
was it lower if we take longer?
It was. If they took longer, it was going to be 28,000. If they did it in 3 weeks, it was 31,000.
See, now that all you contractors out there listening, that is a lesson right there. I love that.
You know what? And he hit the number. He
really?
hit it right on. Today was actually the day, and our project manager gave him the last check today.
Isn't that funny?
So he hit it.
Well, I started a project out in Westminster that I know I've talked about this project on air with you here, and that was the JR is working the construction for us out there, and I'm real happy with the timeline. That first of all, he gave us a good timeline, and we've been able to pick up a couple days. So I know it happens, or a couple weeks. I think on that timeline, it's a big contract for us. We don't do a lot of $100,000 remodels.
Sure.
But it's fun to see these guys, kind of step up, and that's really all we're talking about. You got to step up with the wife.
Yeah.
You got to step up. You got to make things right by her. You got all of these people that are kind of counting on you, and all of that kind of leads to being able to, once you find that house for 50 cents on the dollar, and you can negotiate a good deal for somebody to clean the house and carry the project for all that time. To me it's sort of like it's like a bonus if your life is simple, if you're not in such massive turmoil. Or listen to this one: if you have an apparatus in place that will help you manage all of the turmoil. So it's not a question of today we had a meeting in the morning, and we had our real estate agent that we work with. She was a little afraid. She was a little upset over all the stuff that was going on.
Sure.
And I told her, I said, hey, you have to learn how to excel in these conditions.
Absolutely.
Not just get by, not just make it. You got to learn to be upset because you only got 3 deals going on. You know, it's difficult to juggle the 6 you've got going on.
Sure.
But you got to learn to realize. I know I feel it right now. We're down to like 13 properties, and I'm kind of bored, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't want to say it like that. I got a lot of things I'm doing.
Sure.
But I very much realized when we were juggling 22 properties. I know you guys even have more than that.
Yeah, I think we got 21 going right now. So.
You start to realize you start to pick things up quicker. You make decisions faster. You know.
But you also start, you know, for us, like we lean more and more on the team, you know, because, and I could see this with you and your wife is that you guys, it's, you know, you get 2 chefs, 2 cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And you know, the tough thing I think would be, I think it would be tough to sustain that for a long time. Me personally, I don't know how that lasts. I see sometimes like couples, married people working together. I see a lot of agents that do it. I know you've seen these people too, and I don't know how they make it work.
Yeah, I mean it's been difficult for Terry and I, but in the end, I remember when I married, you know, I was 21 years old. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
32 years ago. I was like, no, I don't want you to work. I want to take care of you. And so one of the great parts of this job is that, you know, she doesn't. It's not that she has to go out there and do this work. It's nice, but all of this is part of it. All of this is part of it. So that what I'm not saying, and I do often say it to her, like, please just go away and let me handle all of this stuff. Because no, she's a good woman. She wants to be involved in what it is I'm doing and saying and such. She wants to check me, make sure I'm not, you know, the crazy guy that I can get sometimes.
Yeah.
And I have to learn that, hey, that's a good thing, that she's doing good for me.
That's good. You know, and I guess for us, and like, you know, me and Steven, even though we're not married, we don't go home together. You know, he's got his own wife and I've got my own wife. But, you know, in business, we're partners, and like we pretty much do everything in business together now. But, you know, we have to even look at each other and say, okay, what are the things we hate doing? And what do we need to have a team doing? What are the things that are just below our pay grade too? Because at some point you gotta set your pay grade. You're like, I make $1,000 an hour is what my pay level is. So if what I'm doing is something I can pay somebody, anything less than $1,000 an hour to do, I should be probably paying somebody to do that thing. So we've been looking at our business model lately. In fact, we had a pretty long conversation about it yesterday, just talking about, you know, all the different aspects of every single, and there are so many steps involved in a flip deal and so many potential steps that could exist. But, you know, some of the big ones are like valuation. We currently do that. That's our role. We do valuations. But ARV valuations are much easier than current value valuations. You know, like when you're taking a property, if you don't know the condition of it, but when you're doing an ARV, you know what it's going to look like. It's going to be a renovated house. So they're actually easier to appraise. So we're like, okay, what we need to do.
You still have to do the work, though, because the first thing you're going to say to Steven is, well, what's the days on market on that comp? Or, you know, how long did it take? What did they have to give to get all of that stuff? And all of that just...
Sure.
That's what rips the people up.
But I could pay a good guy that's good at appraising.
You can.
I could pay him $200 maybe. We'll call it a comp check. You know, just to give me some good comps, give me an idea of what an ARV. And I could just take a range too. I don't need to have him pinpoint. It is 350,000. I don't need that.
Yeah.
He's just saying, looks like rehabbed comps in that area are going from anywhere from 330 to 370.
So that sounds like a really nice service that a top quality real estate agent could offer.
Yeah,
an
or
investor.
appraiser or anybody.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's anybody who could, you know, put that together would be a valuable thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I sort of, I mean, because I was an agent before I got the job, I like to fall back on agents. I like to ask them, hey, what do you think the value is? And then I show them how I would find the value, how I would determine it. And of course, they think I'm crazy because I'll be honest with you, I use Redfin a lot. You know, I use it when I'm on the road. I use Redfin a lot. It's a really easy for me while I'm walking through a property to pull up Redfin and see what some of the other houses in the neighborhood are valued at. And as I get to know it better, I understand the algorithm. I understand how they've put this together and how I'm really looking for a house that's sold, not for some Redfin value of
right, yeah.
you know, X amount. Funny, I was with one of the guys yesterday out in San Bernardino, and The price was 380, and I'm like, there hasn't been a house for sold in this neighborhood for 380, I think, ever, to be honest with you.
Okay, is that
You
high
know?
or low for that neighborhood?
It was the neighborhood was a 320 neighborhood, maybe
Oh.
a yeah, 320, or I'm sorry, 220, not
Oh.
280. Okay, so this is a little cruddy little house for $50,000. We have to put 50 in it.
Okay.
But we think we can sell for 220. It's a good deal
a good
for
deal,
us.
yeah.
I mean, we want to do a deal. It's easy because it's a low amount of cash to get into it and carry it. So we like the deal a lot. But I saw these values of 280, and I'm like, no, we got it. We got this. Look at this. There's 280. But then I realized that it was the algorithm that was giving some stupid refi a bigger value than it should have had. But the idea of going to an agent, though, I'm sorry, I started talking about the agents. The idea of going to an agent and saying, hey, I'm going to call you from time to time and get a value. Can you help me out? It's funny. Some of them are really keen on that,
Sure.
and others just don't seem to get it.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't know why so many agents shun real estate investors. We're a potentially great client to them. We're not a typical
Yeah.
home buyer where we're going to buy one house from them every 15 years,
Yeah.
and they have to continuously market to me if they want to get me to send
Yeah.
my friends and family over to them.
Yeah, so I was Hannah and I were talking about this morning. So if we do 50 transactions, that means we had to purchase 50 houses.
Yeah.
And then we sold 50 houses. So
Yeah,
that's
there's-
100 sides. Okay?
Yep.
And on top of that, how many other like ancillary deals do we get involved in? How many deals do we actually close on and then sell to somebody else?
It's not even 100 sides. It's 200 sides.
Yeah.
Because you figure if the agent that listed it also
There you
sold
go.
it to you, and then you hired them to list it for you
there's-
and sell it, that's four.
And there's in Riverside and San Bernardino County, I bet you there's not even 20 agents in the entire area, in the entire Riverside, San Bernardino. There's like the little metro area here that do 200 sides.
Oh no.
Okay, these would be, I think since the REO properties have kind of gone away,
Yeah.
there's nobody doing business. And I think of the KW office that Terry works out of. I think there's one guy over there that that might do close to it. But
the Mike Novak Smiths have sort of
yeah, they've just sort of gone away. They don't exist anymore. I mean, does Mike still do real estate?
I think I actually saw a sign of his not that long
Oh,
ago.
really?
I think he does, but don't quote me on that because
Yeah.
I don't much look for agents
Really?
anymore. It's
Yeah.
kinda-
I'm not at all really talking about Mike Novak Smith. I don't really know him all that well. I know the name, and we've purchased a couple houses.
Yeah.
But how about being those guys? Talking about being like life being like kind of throwing you a curveball. So how many
Oh,
of
yeah.
those guys? In fact, Hannah and I were trying to buy a house in Corona a couple of months ago.
Okay.
And the selling agent that we were trying to get them to give us the deal. I mean, because we're not going to be able to pay the big number.
Sure.
Okay, so we're trying to convince them to use us, which we never did get the deal.
Uh-huh.
The agent that had the high price offer was one of these super agents, and I won't say the name, but
Okay.
everyone in the real estate industry in like the Corona Riverside area would know who this person is.
Okay. I could take about three guesses, I'm
and
sure.
And the listing agent was like, I just don't want to do business with them because for 3 years I would call and never get a phone call back. They
Oh, yeah.
treated me like, crud because, they were doing 600 deals a
Right.
I know the lady I work for at the Remax office, I think she did like 450 or 600, whatever it was. It was over 450 deals
That's crazy.
in like '07 or I don't know.
Wow.
I mean, whatever it was. It was a lot of deals, selling all the stuff. But yeah, they won't even get back. Or he didn't want to speak to the guy just because he'd been treated so poorly. But
I could certainly understand that. I've seen that firsthand many times. Like where the agents that were doing these REOs and
Yeah.
stuff, they, their offices were bogged down, and unless you had something that was pressing, they didn't really have time for you.
It's kind of interesting because it kind of flies really in with what we're talking about right now, where the lifestyle you have in this business is really nice, and the more business you do, the harder it is to kind of stay connected. But I know that for me and the way I'm trying to grow my business, being able to like kind of press the flesh, being able to like be on the site, to be able to look your contractors in the eye, shake their hand, tell them they're doing a good job,
Yeah.
maybe give them a gas card every once in a while, maybe
Sure.
give them give them I remember one year I gave Mike a bunch of a roast for Christmas,
Oh,
and
nice.
no, I mean, I think you gotta be able to do it, and I see the people that don't, they sort of get separated from the world, and but it's hard, because what that means is at 6 o'clock, when dinner's getting ready to go to the table, when someone calls me with a real with a real problem
Yeah.
that they have, it's not a real problem, but they perceive it as a
Sure.
real problem.
There's not many emergencies in real estate.
No, no, but they need to be talked down, and then really all I'm doing is trying to convince them, well, if you don't really want the deal, I'd be happy to buy it from you.
Yeah.
So interesting stuff. I don't know. It's
So
all good.
I mean, I guess that's that's all part of what we always have to do, because I think we both have a problem being complacent. Where if things are just kind of ticking along, you get sort of like uneasy with the complacency of that. Like I always want to grow and get bigger and do more things. I don't want to just keep doing the same thing all the time. I
Yeah.
mean, what we do is great and it's fun. I enjoy doing it, but there's also other things I would like to do because they look like fun, and I think I'd like to do those things.
Well, yeah.
But I don't want to necessarily shut down what I'm currently doing now either, because we're doing well and it's going, pretty good
Yeah.
for everybody. So
Well, one day the music will stop, and all of us will be scurrying around for our chairs. But I just enjoy the business. I like doing it. I like bringing in. It's one of the reasons I like hanging out with you guys. Is I start to actually feel like I'm not crazy. I don't.
Right.
Everyone has the same problems, and it's just not easy. I remember there was a time when I first kind of met you guys, kind of wrapping my head around what I was doing, how I was doing it, how I was going to structure everything. It wasn't that I couldn't come to you or come to somebody and ask how it's being done, but the reality is people, they just don't know your situation. And if you might miss one little part of that sentence,
yeah,
and if you did, the whole thing doesn't make sense. And that was I honestly, it took me a year and a half of kind of like, oh, I know I can do this, and just kind of beating your head up trying to figure it out. And then when you do it, you realize how easy it is. But then you really can't discount that, because here we've got 700 escrows that we've closed.
yeah.
I wouldn't suspect anyone that could just walk in off the street who's never closed an escrow would know how to deal with whatever problems they would be going on that day. But
Yeah, we see it because we do the joint ventures with people, so we see them, and we try to involve them as much as we can, especially if they're also wholesaling the property
Yeah.
to us. Where escrow's sending them all this stuff, and they're they don't know what they're actually dealing with. They don't know what they're signing, and we have to explain to them okay, this is for this is for that.
Yeah.
We don't, for this, we don't even know. For example, the SPQ, the seller property questionnaire. We never see these homes. We've never lived in them, so I can't tell you every single creak and crack that the house has wrong with it. All I know is what my contractors tell me, and if they've said that they've fixed everything, the inspector says that everything's fixed. I don't know. I mean, I don't
just
know.
did one today. I wrote on every line that I have never been in the property, and I don't have any idea how any of these systems work.
Yeah, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember you guys had bought a mobile home that was on some permanent land, and you went right through the deck.
You fell right through. There you go.
You know?
Well, we just sold a house that had some pests in the property, and our choice was to err on the side of supreme caution. We
Yeah.
went and got a pest service for a year for the people. We stated that there was a problem.
Okay.
In my view, reported all
Sure.
of the problems.
But it's better to do
okay?
that if you know about something.
But no, I can actually sleep at night. I went away thinking, hey, we ended up giving a rather large credit to the because of the overall condition of the property on that. But we got a good number. I'm talking about the house over there on the east
Yep.
side of Riverside.
I know where it is.
We ended up getting a good price on it, so we gave probably more than I've ever given on a sale of a property. But in the disclosures, we basically were talking about their on advice from their contractor. It's a good idea that we'd be happy to give you this money to make you satisfied with the condition of the property. And I know these words don't indemnify me from a lawsuit or something like that, but it's going to be more difficult for someone to come back and say, hey, you've done wrong by me, when I have it all over the page that they need help, that this property needs this kind of stuff.
Yeah, you didn't tell me about the serious ant problem that we have on this property,
Yeah. But, and so for all of you listening, you're like, well, what does that have to do with the lifestyle? I'm telling you right now, these are the problems that bog my wife and I down, because unless you've ever been deposed for 4 or 5 hours or 4 or 5 days by on another side, you realize you don't want to go through these things, and you want to do the right thing. And we were involved in a case like that where we didn't really do anything wrong, and they still dragged us into court, and yeah, it was a real mess. So this is why it speaks to lifestyle. You got to be able to work hard, work fast, say and do the right things that your experience tells you to do, and then in the end, you've done everything you can. And then it allows you to kind of move on to the next thing.
Sure. And I guess that kind of plays into, people need to do their due diligence on who they're going to work with too. I remember I was talking with an attorney. They're not an attorney, an architect. Mm-hmm. They're actually a fairly large architect firm, but I was talking to one of the big wigs over this place, and they're telling me that this developer had come to them looking for designs on some, I think it was an office building or something like that. And, they ended up doing their background checks on this guy, and they found out that every previous architect firm that he's ever worked with, he has ended up suing somewhere down the road. And they said, we decided to decline his request to draw up these plans for him, even though it sounded so simple, in the beginning, just an office building or maybe a hotel, I think is what it was. Yeah. And, they said, we're just not going to work with you because of your track record.
Well, there you go. I'm sort of proud of the fact that I personally have never been involved in a lawsuit. I mean, I'll just do it right. And again, this all comes back to lifestyle. This all comes back to how well you can sleep at night, how well you can go on with things.
Yeah. And so that's that's a big part of it. I mean, I know we've been involved in a lawsuit where we sued somebody involved in one of the deals we've done, and that was the contractor on a deal we had going on out in a different part of California, but the contractor didn't do us like we thought we were getting, and we felt that he breached the contract, and so.
Yeah. Well, I won't give any details about it. What little I do know about that particular case you guys were involved in. But I saw what it did to you. I learned a lot. I learned that I don't want to be in those shoes. I don't want to do that. There's, and I think in hindsight, even if you were able to get a few bucks out of it, I bet you, if I got an honest answer out of you, there was no winner.
No, there was no winner. The attorneys won, and you hear that whenever you talk to people about a lawsuit like this, the attorneys are the real winner in the whole thing. Yeah. We all lost something. None of us came out of this ahead of where we were.
Well, you're a gentleman for not mentioning his name, but it's wrong. It's wrong. And people really need to listen when they're being warned or when they're being told, "Oh, I'm not sure." I would be really concerned about that. And that's why it's really important when someone calls me up and says, hey, Jim, what do you think? I got to be able to give them 110%.
Yeah.
And otherwise, they won't call anymore.
Sometimes that's a good thing, though.
Exactly. That goes to lifestyle, too.
Exactly. Like, actually, there was a time where I just stopped answering my phone. Where I kind of said, I'm only answering my phone between this time and this time because I couldn't get stuff done. My phone would constantly be ringing, and for me, if I have my mind in something, let's say I'm working on an Excel spreadsheet or something, and I got my mind in this, and then somebody calls, they take my attention away from it for 15 minutes. Then I got to try to get my head back into it. Okay, where was I? And it takes me another 15 minutes to get back into it, and I don't know, my motivation somehow got zapped in the process,
Well, no, I know that's the case. We have a family friend. He used to run a large cellular phone company. He was the CEO of that company, and he flat out. At the time, I was working for a home builder, and the vice president of sales and marketing he was always kind of gracious over the idea that he had an open door policy.
Okay.
And I told that to my friend who was the CEO of this. It's a huge company
Yeah.
that I won't mention,
Mm-hmm.
but he was a private jet flyer,
Okay.
that kind of a position, okay? And he flat out said, "My door is locked."
Yeah.
He goes, "If you haven't planned properly, if you have an emergency that's so bad you got to come and break my door down, you shouldn't be working for me."
Yeah.
Okay? And that was a whole nother look at corporate America that I'd never even, considered, being like that.
And you don't start out that way.
Oh, no, you don't. And then so one day I went into he had an office in Long Beach at the time, and so we were like on the 20th floor of his building right on Ocean Boulevard. And he had this massive, probably 2,000 square foot office with little areas in it. And he had a conference table. It was probably about a 15-foot long conference table,
Okay.
big conference table.
This is
And
the CEO's
the
office
CEO's
only. This is
CEO's
his
office.
Okay, just his
Okay?
little office. Okay.
So he pivots around in his chair.
Okay.
And he kind of rolls himself. He takes two long rolls, and he gets to the center of the big table he has.
Okay.
And he has the extra large binder clip. So what are those, like 1 3/8 or 1.5
Okay.
thick?
Yeah.
He has a series of 15 piled on top of one another, like dominoes that have been knocked over.
Uh-huh.
He's got 7 or 8 rows of those. He goes, "Yeah, these are all my problems I get to take care of. The only reason they're sitting on my desk is no one else can figure out how to take care of them."
Yeah.
It was just and again, I'm saying all of this because lifestyle.
Sure.
It's that was a guy who was super regimented. He was super, he was really on top of it. Funny thing is, he retired, and just a couple of months ago, took a position for some company in London, recruited him. So now he's living, him and his wife, they sold their retirement dream home in San Clemente
Okay.
and moved to London.
Wow. So they're
They're
gone.
back at it. They're back at it. But no, I mean, I was telling my wife, I was like, that's an interesting thing because here, when I say he made it, I mean he had a $10 million parachute when he left that company.
Sure.
He doesn't have to work. He's got a great life. He's got a beautiful office on the bottom floor of his 3-story house that goes down the hill.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful picture window overlooking the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
I mean, it's beautiful. Okay, but no, he had to go back. I told my
Yeah.
wife, I go, he went back into the belly of the dragon, man, because back to work.
It's funny, and it's funny that to me that he went to go work for another company.
Yeah.
He gets hired on. Even a CEO is usually hired on. They're not usually the founder of the company. So it's weird to me that there's employees at that level.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I don't get it. And we've talked about hiring a CEO, hiring somebody to actually run the business.
I love that idea.
Which I love the idea of it too. And it's a control issue, I know, because we have a hard time giving up that control. How do we know this person's not going to make the wrong decision when it's really important that they make the right decision?
Yeah,
and
exactly. So there's this mix of pay and equity, and in order for it to actually mean something to the guy, I mean maybe it's more equity, but on the other side of that, you got to wrap your head around giving 20% of your company or 10% or 2% of your company away.
Yeah.
It's foreign to me. And again, and I guess this is really what we're talking about because you just don't know.
Yeah.
But the people that have done it, I had a family member who was in the boot business.
Okay.
So he started in the 70s. He had one boot store in Huntington Beach.
Just that one boot
and
store.
That one boot store turned into a $420 million sale a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So he grew it to 200 or 300 boot stores all across the country, and
It's amazing.
it is amazing if you think about it.
I mean, because you start out with the basic structure of a single retail spot. You have maybe a general manager. You have a couple assistant managers, some shift leaders, and some employees that stock the shelves and whatnot. I mean, it's a fairly basic structure. Most people that have probably worked for any portion of their lives understand the retail structure.
For sure.
But you get into other organizations I don't even know what I would call a position for certain things within our office. I don't have a page out of somebody's book. I can just go, here's the standard office organizational chart for a flipping organization or a real estate investment,
Yeah,
firm.
because everything is so it's really what I think is funny about our business is the guys that are really good at it and make a lot of money at it, they figure out that there's too much risk, there's too much exposure, there's too much of whatever it is they don't want,
Yeah.
and they go and they do something else. And I don't know if I'm ready to leave quite yet, but yeah, I think that part is kind of interesting. You don't see a lot of guys. Yes, I've been flipping for 50 years. Yeah, you don't hear that very often.
No,
so.
yeah, some of the it seems like the big flipping organizations that come around are sort of around for a cycle,
Yeah.
and then afterwards they go somewhere else. They do something else, or I don't know. That seems to be the way things go. And right now we're both flipping, but I think by the time the next cycle comes around, we're going to be kind of graduated to that next level.
I'm thinking of ice cream stores. That's
went
the
to some-
exactly. Exactly.
So I met a guy who he actually just opened up a bunch of ice cream stores
Really?
here in the Inland Empire. Yeah.
Oh, and that's why I love it. I love America, man. I mean, I don't want to, I won't go into my USA chant here, but no, I mean, there's so many opportunities. You could. I personally know a multimillionaire from the boot industry.
Mhm.
Here you're talking about I know a gentleman. He owns a couple of the Del Tacos.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's a complete absentee ownership operation for him.
Really, that's
he
nice.
He pays like the store, each one of the store managers very well,
Yeah.
and it's their place. And I mean, both of those store managers make $100,000 a year managing a Del Taco.
Yeah.
Okay,
I could see that very, very easily.
Yeah, but he really all he does is manage the real estate. He was a real estate agent who did well. He bought the sites.
Okay. He's a regular Ray Kroc.
There you go. He's a regular Ray Kroc. Founder, the best movie ever.
Exactly.
Man. I love that. Yeah,
That was a good movie.
yeah, it really was.
I guess we kind of run into these situations. It's not that like we hate what we do. It's like what I like right now is we're having this higher level conversation, the stuff that people don't talk about. Where it's the day-to-day stuff and figuring out what you're supposed to be doing at any given time during the day, or what you're supposed to be having other people do at any time during the day. That's what I like about this right now, is that we're getting into sort of the nitty-gritty of it, where it's not all just what you see on TV, for example.
Yeah.
All the stuff they don't go into on the Flip or Flop show, or and Tarek and Christina, you see them, they bicker very, very mildly over a small
that
thing in
show
a house.
jumped the shark for me when they pulled the carpet back and they're like, oh my gosh, there's a crack in the concrete. What are we gonna do? This whole project.
Oh, yeah.
And I just sort of like, oh, this is like ridiculous. This
Yeah.
is so ridiculous. It's a really great TV show. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But, I literally, I don't think I've actually watched a full episode of that
No?
show
Okay.
since that. I mean, this was like 5 years ago for
Yeah.
me. But when I saw that happen, and I think on that episode, he was like, hey, I know. I'll bring my father-in-law in. He's always wanted to do some investing with me, and since there's this big crack in the concrete, I'm going to need $40,000 more.
Wow.
So then they had to bring the father-in-law in, and to do this whole. I really think they just want they needed to figure out a way to get a little bit of money to Dad. So they brought him in on the TV show, and he made scale for a couple days. That had to have been it. But
That's so funny. And you can always tell like a new investor when they ask you, like, well, what are you going to do if there's a foundation problem? We're like, well, I'm going to notice that.
I'm going to fix it and resell it. That's what I'm going to
exactly.
do.
and I'm like, it's foundation problems are not something you just find out at some point. You find it out when you walk the home, because usually there's a bit of a slant to like a portion of the house. You can tell a foundation problem. And a lot of times these, the carpets are all torn back anyway on the properties we buy, so you can see those cracks in the foundation before we even buy the thing. So,
Tariq,
yeah,
I love that show.
Oh yeah, it's fun. I love when people bring up the cracks in the foundation stuff. It's like, the only thing we've ever found that's like something we didn't anticipate would be, I remember one house we bought, there was newspaper stuff behind all the drywall. That was their insulation.
Wow.
But that's not an expensive fix.
Yeah.
It didn't take that much money to actually rectify that problem. It was kind of cool, because the newspaper was from the 1920s.
That's neat, isn't
So
it?
it was kind of cool.
I found a 1924 newspaper one time in Long Beach, and it was like $5,400 10-bedroom Beverly Hills Estates.
Oh,
or
man.
they were selling property on Redondo and Second in Long Beach for $50 down and $5 a month.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I mean, just crazy stuff.
You know,
And the ads were like, the ads were amazing.
Something like that, I feel like you could like cut the thing out of the newspaper, put on like a nice frame or something, go
Yeah.
sell it to the person in that house. Say,
The owner of the house showed up like right after we found the linoleum was laid by Buffums.
okay,
Okay, I mean, come on, we haven't had Buffums in California in 20 years.
Yeah.
So this was back in 24, and the newspaper was from 1924. The backing for the linoleum.
Yeah,
For
I
the
can see that
for the
too.
sheet goods. Excuse me.
Yeah, it was always cool to see that.
Yeah.
All right, we're about out of time, so before we jump, we should let all the people out there know that if you do want to get to know some real estate investors or become a real estate investor yourself, come check out the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club. We get together the fourth Wednesday of every month at the Loft 84 in downtown Riverside. You can get all the information you need on meetup.com. And for those of you that want to tune in next week, we'll see you all again there. Thanks, Jim, for coming in. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
And take care, everyone. We'll see you all next week.